friends. Happy Wednesday. It is devotion day. I'm getting a little bit later start today, but went to the pool this morning and I did both of my classes. I'm trying to stay as faithful to that as I possibly can. I missed it 2 days during VBS. It was just not working out for my 2 evening classes that I do. So I'm trying to keep up with it because it really, really is helping with both of my knees are feeling so much better, and my inflammation is a whole lot better than it has been in years. So I'm just trying to stay on top of that. And so this morning I went to the pool, did my classes, came home, had a few things I needed to get done today, and I still have some more things to do, but I wanted to get this devotion done because today's devotion is incredible. I read this morning and I was just like, wow, this really spoke to me, especially with what we had going last week with VBS. It was just incredible. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that in a little bit, but I'm going to read today's devotion. It was just super, super good. So this is from the book of Colossians. We're in our book that my sweet friend Nicole from Lazy Crew Homestead got me for Christmas. And this one is called The Blessings to Come. And it's out of the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 24. And this is out of the NIV. It says, "You know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. So even city folks know that if we plant a kernel of corn, it produces several ears of corn, loaded with many more kernels. A single sunflower seed grows into a tall, sturdy stalk with a heavy golden head holding hundreds of seeds. It's amazing how great the return we get when we plant seeds in a garden or a field. We are sowing good things into other people's lives. It may sometimes seem like a thankless job, but God sees all that we do, and in time, He will reward us with a great crop for our efforts. There's another thing about sowing seeds. They produce their fruit in a future season. A day or week after we sow, it looks like nothing is happening. But with the appropriate sun, rain, and time, tender plants rise up from the ground. As the weeks continue, the plants grow stronger, becoming fruitful and produce a harvest. Whenever we serve others, God rewards us. It may not be as quickly as we'd like, but it will certainly be good. We can count on the Lord always." And I loved that because last week, as we were doing Vacation Bible School, we had 73 kids sign up for that, and we were just amazed. As I told you guys last week, we were praying for 42, and then we just kept getting more and more and more. And our final number last week was 73 at our peak, or 75 at our peak. And it was just amazing. And that's what we were doing last week, all week long, when we had all of those kids at our church. We were sowing seeds. The seeds were being planted for those kids, for their future, and for them to want to have a relationship with Jesus. We had probably 25 of those 75 kids in that church raise their hand to accept Jesus one night. And it was just incredible. And just like what she talks about in this devotion, is those are seeds that are being planted. I teach Sunday mornings upstairs during second service. I teach the grade school kids ages 1st through 5th. And when I first started doing children's ministry a couple of years ago at our church, I kind of floated everywhere. I was in the nursery, I was in the pre-K, I was upstairs. I kind of just did a whole bunch of different things. I really wasn't sure where my calling was going to be. I did okay with the babies, but it wasn't my favorite place to be. But even if you don't like being in the nursery, you can hold a baby. You can sit on the floor and play with a baby. And that gives a parent an opportunity to be in church. And you may not be sowing a seed for that child at that age, but you are sowing an indirect seed when it comes to giving the parents a chance to be in church and be able to focus on worship and focus on prayer and focus on the sermon, focus on what they're being taught, and focus on growing in their relationship while their baby is being taken care of. Now, in the pre-K classes with us, we are teaching the kids. The kids do learn about Jesus every Sunday. The lessons are a lot more simpler. They are really easy for the kids to understand. We always have a fun activity and stuff, but we are sowing seeds in that class as well. Those kids are learning, and you can ask them after they leave class on Sunday. The parents are always so amazed. They pick their kids up and they ask them, "What did you do in Sunday school today?" And they will tell them, and they can tell them what story they heard that day in class. What was our craft that day? And all the crafts and everything are revolved around that one lesson. in grade school, the kids are learning to worship together. We do worship songs together upstairs. We do a lesson together. We do an activity together that revolves around our lesson. And those seeds are being planted every single Sunday. But the thing is with kids, a lot of people don't understand this. And I saw this in a reel on Instagram a couple of days ago, and I shared it with a few people from our church. But it is so true that when you bring your kids to Sunday school, and whether they are in youth group or they are in grade school or they are in the pre-K or they're in the nursery, wherever they're at, these teachers or volunteers in those classes, we only have access to those kids a couple of hours a week, and that's it. And so we have a very short amount of time that we can invest in those kids and plant those seeds. And those seeds have to be watered. We can't water them from a distance. So those seeds have to be watered by other people that are investing in their lives. And that is the parents and the grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends and neighbors and all the people that are involved in these kids' lives that are believers. We are watering those seeds. So when somebody else at church is planting those seeds in a lesson, it's our job to water those seeds outside of that. And we receive a blessing for doing that, because we're being called to do that. If we're listening for God's voice, if we're listening to what he's saying, we're being called to water those seeds daily. And I struggled with that at the very beginning of my faith journey, and I'm starting to realize that more and more and more, that all of these little kids that I'm investing time in now, that one day they are going to make that decision to be baptized. They're going to make that decision when they are old enough to really, really develop a relationship with Jesus and make that super important to them. And that is all going to be a result of those seeds being planted, not just by me, but by everybody. And we are blessed that we get to do that. That is a blessing to us. Another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to blessings is blessings can come in many, many forms. They can come in the form of something that we have prayed for and we wanted it. It could be a tangible thing that we've prayed for. Blessings can come in the form of I feel myself that a blessing can come in the form of just a hug. I mean, there can be Sundays when I walk into church and maybe I'm just not feeling, you just have those days. You just walk into church and yes, you're happy to be there, and yes, you want to be at church, but you're just not feeling it. You know what I mean? It's just an off morning or something for you. And I can be blessed by the incredible people in my church noticing that I'm just having an off day, and they will come and hug on me and love on me in my church. And I am blessed for that. I am blessed when I get that from my church family. That to me is a blessing. This reminds me of a story from when I was a little tiny kid. My grandmother used to tell me this story all the time, and I always loved this story, and I hadn't thought about it in a really, really, really long time. We started at our new church in 2022. We had left our old church in 2017, and we didn't go back until we went to this new church in 2022. And we had just been in that church for a few short weeks, and we had started a Bible study with an adult Bible study. It was a co-ed study, and we'd only been in that study for a couple of weeks. And a person that's become a really, really, really good friend of ours since then wanted to do something, and I was, like I always was, like, no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. It's, it's okay. You don't need to. And he looked at me and he said, I have to tell you something. And I said, what? And he goes, when somebody offers to give you something or offers to do something for you and you turn that down, you are taking their blessing away from them, because they have been, they've been prompted by God to do this. God has spoken to them and said, I want you to bless this person. And when they try to bless you and you say no, you're taking away their blessing. And that just spoke volumes to me. I thought, how many times has somebody offered to do something for me or offered to give me something or whatever? And I was like, oh no, you don't need to do that. And then I got to thinking, you know what? I took away their blessing. God wanted to bless them for blessing me, and I took that away from them. And then I felt horrible. I was like, wow. But it reminded me of this story that my grandmother told me when I was a kid. And I always loved this story. It was a story about a man that had died and gone to heaven. and he goes to heaven, and he's having a conversation with Jesus. And they walk by this room in heaven, and in this room is box after box after box after box of just boxes with people's names on them. And he asked Jesus what those were. And Jesus looked at him with the tears in his eyes and said, those are the blessings that I wanted to give people, but they turned them away. And I remember as a kid, that story just impacting me so strongly that I thought, how many times does God want to bless me through somebody else? How many times does he want to use somebody else in my life to bless me, or to speak into my life, or, as this devotion said, water a seed that somebody else had planted in my life? How many times have I doused that? How many times have I just been like, no, thank you. I don't, and you're not meaning to be rude about it, but you just don't stop to think about those things, that blessings come in so many ways. And when we have an opportunity to bless somebody, or we have an opportunity to receive a blessing, we have an opportunity to speak into a kid's life, or speak into even an adult's life. We can water seeds in adults. Just because they're an adult doesn't mean that those seeds don't get watered. They do. So we can plant those seeds by sharing Jesus with them. We can plant those seeds by bringing them to church. This last weekend we had our big block party. That is how we usually end up our week of VBS. On Sunday after church, we have a big block party. We have food trucks and inflatables and all kinds of fun stuff. It was a blast. And we just welcomed the community, like our neighborhood. Everybody was welcome to come and be there. And we had just a huge number of people at church. But people came to church that don't normally come to our church. And we got to hear a sermon preached by our youth pastor, Melissa, and it was incredible. And the seeds were planted on Sunday. People that don't normally come to our church, they heard that message. They heard the message that was laid on Melissa's heart by God for her to share. And all of those seeds were planted. And I just got to thinking, I was like, that is so incredible. We are continually planting seeds every single day. And when we do that, just like that devotion said, we are blessed. We are blessed when we get to do that. And we bless other people in that way too. So friends, get out there and find somebody that you can bless today. Find somebody that needs a little blessing in their life. Find somebody that you can speak truth and life into them. Find somebody that you can plant a seed and then water that seed and continue to water it and watch it grow, because it is the most incredible thing to get to see. 2 years ago at VBS, I got the blessing, and I'm going to say that word a lot in this video. I got the blessing of getting to be there when my sweet friend Shelly, who is our children's pastor now, her grandson accepted Jesus into his heart, and I got to be on the prayer team that night at VBS that year. And I was up front, and he came directly to me, and I got to pray with him, and he accepted Jesus into his heart. And now he has a special place in my heart. And that is a seed that I will continue to water. That is a seed his grandmother will continue to water. And I have it in my phone. I have it in my calendar. In fact, I just texted his grandma on Monday, because Monday was the 3-year anniversary of him being saved. And it was such an incredible thing. So his grandmother and I had a great conversation over that. And so it's something that every year is going to pop on my calendar, and I'm going to remember that that's what happened on this day. And that is a seed that we continue to water all the time. And we hope and pray that he continues to walk that walk. And when he strays from that, at least we can be there to pray for him and walk alongside him through this. So he's young. He's got a lot of life ahead of him, a lot of decisions to make, but we just need to continue to water that seed. So friends, thank you guys so much for joining me today. We've had a bit of I'm not super close to where it was at, but we had a tsunami warning over on the Oregon coast. And so that was a little bit scary for us around here. We are not in the tsunami zone. We are a couple hundred miles away from that area, but I do have lots of friends that live on the coast, family that lives on the coast. And so we were I had a kind of a rough night's sleep last night. I kept checking my phone to see if the waves had hit the Oregon coast yet. I know that it did hit Hawaii, and it has hit, it was just devastating in Russia, and I know there's lots of places that have just been devastated by tsunami, and so we are definitely praying for those areas, praying for the people that are affected by that. We are thankful that the warning was finally canceled this afternoon, and it is now just a watch again, just in case there's any residual, waves coming this way that they haven't seen yet. So we're still continuing to pray about that. But I did have some people reach out to me from my channel that know that I live on this side of the United States, and that we do live somewhat close to the Oregon coast, and reach out to check on us. So I appreciate you guys checking in with me to see if we are okay, and we are fine. And it is now, the advisory has been canceled. It's now just a watch. And so I think we're going to be okay on this side of the United States. So friends, thank you guys again for joining me today. I love it when we get to spend this time together, when we get to get into a devotion and share that and learn a little bit of something. I love getting to share what God lays on my heart for that day. And I hope you guys will watch this and take something away from it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of today's devotion. Share your thoughts with me. I love getting to read those. I am going to go pick up a grocery delivery. It's ready to pick up in about a half an hour, so I'm going to head that way, go get some groceries, come home, making something delicious on the Blackstone again tonight for dinner. So you guys will be seeing that video series coming out very soon. You don't want to miss that one. And then I'll have to take hubby I'll have to take hubby dinner at church, because that's where he is tonight. So friends, we will talk to you guys in the comments. Have a fantastic day. Get out there and enjoy the sun. Get out there and be a blessing to somebody, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day, and God bless.